يا ذا الأسماء الحسنى يا خالقنا غفرانا نسألك وأنت الأسمى نأمل عفوك سبحانا يا خالقنا يا رب لعبيدك أنر الدار.
نحمده ونستعينه ونستغفره ونؤمن به ونتوكل عليه ونعوذ بالله من شرور أنفسنا ومن سيئات أعمالنا من يهده الله فلا مضل له ومن يضلله فلا هادي له وأشهد أن لا إله إلا الله وحده لا شريك له وأشهد أن سيدنا وسندنا ونبينا ومولانا محمدا عبده ورسوله صلى الله تعالى عليه وعلى آله وأصحابه وبارك وسلم تسليما كثيرا. أما بعد فأعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم. بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. ونفس وما سواها فألهمها فجورها وتقواها قد أفلح من زكاها وقد خاب من دساها. آمنت بالله صدق الله مولانا العظيم وصدق رسوله النبي الكريم ونحن على ذلك من الشاهدين والشاكرين والحمد لله رب العالمين. My dear brothers, Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. When on Tuesday morning I spoke in Darul Uloom about the basic objectives for which Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam was sent to this world, it came in the course of the lecture that one of the basic objectives of Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam was to purify the people, yuzakkihim, to make tazkiyah, to make purification of the people. This has been mentioned by the Holy Quran as separate from teaching the book and the wisdom, which was a duty delegated to Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam on its own force. But at that point of time, I could not explain in detail what this purification means. Although I alluded to some aspects of tazkiyah, but there was no detailed explanation of purification. Some of my brothers here asked me that I should explain this tazkiyah or purification in a detailed manner. I had pointed out at that time that this purification, for the purpose of this purification, an independent science or independent practical experiments have been developed by the Muslim Ummah, which is sometimes called Tasawwuf or Tariq or Suluk. So today, according to the wish of some of my brothers, I would like to explain what Tasawwuf really is and how to achieve the objective of purification. That was one of the duties of Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam. Obviously, in a short sitting, it is not possible to give all the details regarding Tasawwuf, because Tasawwuf is a vast subject. Many books have been written on it. But I want firstly to introduce and to explain the basic meaning of Tasawwuf, and then to remove some misconceptions regarding it. Because unfortunately, in our society, the people are on two extremes about Tasawwuf. There are people who say that Tasawwuf is something different from Sharia, it is outside of Sharia, and this is something that has no basis in the Holy Quran or Sunnah of the Holy Prophet ﷺ, and therefore they call it as bid'ah. On the other hand, on the other extreme, there are some people who regard Tasawwuf as something alien or something different from Sharia, and they say that once a person adopts the ways of Tasawwuf, he need not to resort to the laws of Sharia. He is not subjected to the laws of Sharia. They say that once we have adopted the ways of Tasawwuf, there is no need to abide by the laws of Sharia that have been explained in the Holy Quran or in the Sunnah of the Holy Prophet ﷺ. And in order to establish their standpoint, they have adopted some mysterious acts, and they say that this is the basic purpose of the religion, this is the basic purpose of deen, and once we have adopted these ways, there is no need for any Sharia principle or Sharia law. This, which is totally straying apart from the path of deen. So there are two different extremes. So therefore, one must know what Tasawwuf really means and what is the basis of Tasawwuf in the Holy Quran and Sunnah of the Holy Prophet ﷺ, and how can we adopt it, how can we mold our lives according to it. So let me explain that this Tasawwuf is not something different from Sharia. It is a part of Sharia. Because when we speak of Sharia, it means the basic precepts, commands and prohibitions given by Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala through Holy Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam. These precepts or these commands and prohibitions are of two different kinds. Both are part of the Sharia. These are of two different kinds. There are some commands and prohibitions which relate to our outward acts that can be seen, they are visible, they can be seen, they are performed physically, like Salah, for example. Salah is an act that is physical act, and can be seen. If one is performing Salah, you can see him. It is a visible activity. Likewise, Saum, fasting, Zakah, Hajj, Umrah, tilawat, zikr, all these acts of worship are visible, are physical. They are performed by our outward, physical, outward body, from our mouth or our hands or whatever. But just as the Sharia deals with such acts that are visible and physical, likewise Sharia has some commands and prohibitions about our inner qualities. Our inner qualities that are not visible. They are our inner qualities, inner instincts that cannot be seen through eyes. For example, if a person has jealousy against another person, this jealousy cannot be seen through this eye. It is not visible. It is something that rests in his heart. So there are many commands and prohibitions given by Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala and by Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam that relate to our inner qualities. And these inner qualities are in fact very important, very significant, because they dominate our outward activities. For example, let me explain to you. For example, there is a quality that is called in Arabic as ikhlas. Ikhlas. It means, normally we translate it as sincerity. So sincerity is a quality that is not visible. It rests in our heart. But it is the command of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala to achieve this quality of ikhlas, sincerity. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says, فَعْبُدِ اللَّهَ مُخْلِصًا لَهُ الدِّينَ. You have to worship Allah, have to make ibadah of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala in a state of ikhlas, sincerely. It means that when we perform salah, when we perform any act of worship, our basic intention should be to please Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. This is what ikhlas means. Not only in the acts of worship, but also in our day-to-day life. For example, if we are offering gifts to some of our brothers, it also needs ikhlas, that we are offering these gifts for the sake of Allah. Because Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has said, if you offer gifts to one another, it will create more love between you, and it is a sunnah of Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam that he used to offer gifts to others. So if you offer some gifts for the sake of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, to seek the pleasure of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, and to follow the sunnah of Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam, then it is ikhlas. But if you are offering a gift to a person so that you may be called that he is a very generous person, or so that you achieve, or so that you are expecting that if I offer a gift to a particular person, he will offer me something more in exchange, then this is totally haram. And that is why Rasulullah, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says in the Holy Quran, وَلَا تَمْنُنْ تَسْتَكْثِرْ. وَلَا تَمْنُنْ تَسْتَكْثِرْ. Do not do a favor to a person in order to achieve something more from him. So the act is the same, that offering gift. But if it is done with the intention of pleasing Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, with the intention of following the sunnah of Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam, it contains ikhlas, it has ikhlas, and it is acceptable with Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. It is rewardable by Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. But if you do it with some other intention other than to please Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, this is not ikhlas. And since there is no ikhlas, then this act is no more rewardable. It carries no sawab at all. So this ikhlas is needed in every aspect of our life. In our salah, in our zakah, in our hajj, in our umrah, in our tilawah, in our zikr, in everything. We need this ikhlas. And this ikhlas is as obligatory as salah. It is as obligatory as fasting in Ramadan. So if we miss this ikhlas, all our acts will go in vain. There will be no benefit out of it. So this is one of the obligations given by Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala and Rasulullah sallallahu alayhi wa sallam that relates not to our physical acts but to our inner quality. This is one example. Another one, that it is required from a Muslim to be humble before others. Humbleness, which is called tawazu, humbleness, which means that one should not be arrogant against each other, against others. It must be humble. But unfortunately, the word humbleness, when we speak of humbleness in English, it does not give the true association, true connotation of the word tawazu in Arabic. Because humbleness, when we speak of humbleness in English, it means that when I meet a person, I show humbleness. Merely showing humbleness. While I may be arrogant in my heart, I may feel that I am greater than this person. I am, more meritorious against this person. Still I show humbleness. This is not humbleness. This is not tawazu that is meant by Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam. Rasulullah said, "Man tawaza'a lillahi rafa'ahu Allah." Whoever is humble before Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, raises him high. So this tawazu is not something to be shown. It is something to be felt in our heart, that I am nothing. Whatever I have is the blessing of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. If I am a rich person, for example, if I am a rich person, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has favored me with a lot of wealth. Then, if I feel myself that all this wealth has been earned through my own hands, with my own efforts, I am the owner of this wealth. This is takabbur. This is arrogance. Although when I meet people, I show humbleness, but I have in my heart that I am a rich person. I am greater than this. So, innama utitu ala ilmin indi. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, has cited the story of Qarun, who was very rich person. And when he was asked by some brothers that you should be humble before Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, he said, "Innama utitu ala ilmin indi." You should be grateful to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. He said, "No, I have acquired all this wealth out of my own strength, out of my own courage, out of my own effort." This was arrogance. Although when he met people, he might have shown humbleness before them. This is not humbleness. This is not tawazu. So, likewise, shukr, that is gratefulness to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. This is also inner quality. One should be grateful to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala in all his acts, etc. So, these are commands that relate to our own inner qualities, which do not relate to our physical activities, and those qualities are not visible to us. In the same manner, there are certain prohibitions with regard to our inner quality, like jealousy. Jealousy is haram. If you act jealously against a person has acquired more wealth and you are jealous against him, then this is totally haram. Takabbur, it's totally haram. This is the thing that has, deprived the Satan from the mercy of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, because he showed arrogance against Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Takabbur is haram. Hasad is haram. Bughz, that is, how do you translate it? Not malice against a person. Malice in the sense that I have malice against this person. I try my best to hurt, to hurt him, or to deprive him from some benefit. So this malice is haram. So much so that Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam has said about Laylatul Qadr. You know Laylatul Qadr? The night of Qadr that comes in Ramadan. In nights of Qadr, Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam has said that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala forgives as large number of people as the number of the hair grown on the sheep of the tribe of Banu Kalb. Banu Kalb was a big tribe. It has a lot of sheep, large number of sheep, and every sheep has some hair on its body. So Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam said that in the night of Laylatul Qadr, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala forgives as large number of people as the hair grown on the back of the sheep of the tribe of Kalb. But at the same time, Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam has warned, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala does not forgive some persons even in that night. One is the person who has malice against a Muslim. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala does not forgive him even in the Laylatul Qadr. So malice is such a grave sin that the person having malice against others cannot be forgiven by Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala even in the Laylatul Qadr, even in the night of Qadr. This is haram, totally haram. Very. And if, likewise, you say that, riya. Riya means to do something only to show off. If I am performing salah, to show off and to show that I am a very pious person. Not to please Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, but to show myself as a pious person. This is the riya. If I spend in charity only because I should be called as a generous person, then this is riya. This is haram, totally haram. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has, Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam said, Man salla yura'i faqad ashraka billah. Whoever performs salah to show off, he has committed shirk. Because salah was supposed to be purely for Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. But he has, done it, has performed it in order to please the people. وَمَنْ صَامَ يُرَائِي فَقَدْ أَشْرَكَ بِاللَّهِ. Whoever kept fast for the purpose of riya, and to show off to the people, he has committed shirk. So these are some examples of the inner qualities. That there are commands about our inner qualities. There are, at the same time, there are some prohibitions like jealousy, malice, etc. And takabbur, arrogance. So when Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam is sent to this world, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says he was sent not only to teach the book and the wisdom, but also to purify them. Purify them from bad inner qualities, from bad instincts that one had in his heart. So this part of Sharia, the science that deals with this part of Sharia is called Tasawwuf. This is the origin of Tasawwuf. Some people some people, think that tasawwuf means to have some wazifa, some zikr, some tilawat, and to do some muraqabah, and to do some, to see some dream, etc. In fact, these things have nothing to do with tasawwuf at all. Tasawwuf is to purify oneself from the inner quality, from the bad inner qualities. This was tasawwuf. For example, how Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam purified the Sahaba, how Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam purified them from bad instincts. Perhaps you know that in the days of Jahiliyyah, the Arabs were very arrogant people. Very arrogant people. For example, a person who is the head of a tribe, he deemed him to be like God for other people, and he could not meet the common people. He would not meet them. If anybody, for example, comes across the head of the tribe, he used to treat him like a servant or like a slave, and they used to abuse, hurl abuses to their servants, to their slaves. Sahaba who embraced Islam, radiyallahu ta'ala anhu ajma'in, were a part of that nation, and therefore when they accepted Islam, they were of the same nature, and they used, for example, once Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam saw Sayyidina Abu Bakr as-Siddiq radiyallahu ta'ala anhu, he was cursing his slaves. He was cursing, he was speaking in a bad language to his servant, to his slave. When Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam heard this, he said, "Al-'anina wa siddiqin." On the one hand, you are the Siddiq. You have believed in my messengership. You are the first person to believe in my messengership. And on the other hand, you are hurling abuses to your servant. This cannot be accepted in Islam. So therefore, he stopped Sayyidina Abu Bakr radhiyallahu ta'ala from that. After that, Sayyidina Abu Bakr, after Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam purified him from his anger, he was very arrogant person who used to be angry very quickly. But once Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam purified him, then he was so humble. He became so humble. Sayyidina Abu Bakr as-Siddiq radhiyallahu anhu became so humble that even when others used to be angry, he remained calm and quiet. Once there was some altercation between Sayyidina Abu Bakr as-Siddiq radhiyallahu ta'ala anhu and Sayyidina Umar ibn al-Khattab radhiyallahu anhu. Both were very close friends and respected each other. But they were also human beings. At some point of time, there was some disagreement between the two. And Sayyidina Abu Bakr as-Siddiq and Sayyidina Umar ibn al-Khattab radhiyallahu ta'ala anhu both raised their voices against each other. And then Sayyidina Abu Bakr as-Siddiq radhiyallahu ta'ala anhu went, after Sayyidina Umar radhiyallahu anhu, in order to, make him happy. But Sayyidina Umar radhiyallahu anhu entered his house and closed the door. And Sayyidina Abu Bakr radhiyallahu anhu then returned to Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam. When Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam saw him coming, he said to other Sahaba, perhaps he had some altercation with someone. Then he came to Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam, and when Sayyidina Umar, when he closed the door, after a while he felt that I did a bad thing. I could not do so. So he came again he also came to Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam. When Abu Bakr radiallahu anhu saw Sayyidina Umar coming, he said to Rasulullah, he was anticipating that Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam will be angry on Sayyidina Umar radiallahu anhu on this behavior. So he said to Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam, Ya Rasulullah, in fact I was wrong. It was my fault, not that of Umar. So please forgive him. So the person who was so arrogant, after the purification of Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam, became so humble for others that he, took upon himself all the fault of Sayyidina Umar radiallahu anhu. So this was, Sayyidina Ali radiallahu anhu was a person, belonging to the tribe of Banu Hashim, who used to be the Sardar, the heads of the Arabs. So these heads were very arrogant. But when they accepted Islam, Sayyidina Ali radiallahu anhu, perhaps Manana Rumi rahimahullah ta'ala has cited his story that once Sayyidina Ali radiallahu anhu heard a Jew hurling abuses against Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam. He had committed, Gustaki, that is, against Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam. Ali, when heard this, could not tolerate. He just attacked on him, made him lie on the ground and sat on her chest. When he sat on the chest of the Jew spit on his face. As soon as he spit on his face, he just left him and, stood by his side. The people asked him, he has spit on your face. This was more, it was required more anger against him. You should have punished him for that. Why did you leave him like that? So then Ali radiallahu anhu answered that when I first, attacked on him, I did not attack for myself. I attacked him because he was blasphemous to Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam. But when he spit on my face, if I, punished him, that punishment would have been for my sake, for myself, which I do not want to do, because one should not take punishment, give punishment to any other person because of one's own, ego. This differentiation between the two acts has come through the purification given by Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam. So this, Tasawwuf or Tazkiyah, in reality means the act of purification. The act of purification. And this is like treating some patient who suffers from a physical illness. So this jealousy, this riya or takabbur, arrogance, they are in fact some ailments of the heart, some ailments of our inner existence. These are treated like the physical ailments are treated. But the way is different. The way is different. So the basic purpose of Tasawwuf was to treat these ailments of heart and to purify oneself. And this is exactly what Tazkiyah means. Yuzakkihim. Qad aflaha man zakkaha wa qad khaba man dassaha. The Holy Quran says. The successful is the one who purifies his inner quality. So this is the basic purpose of the Tasawwuf. But, to treat physical ailments is easier than to treat inner spiritual ailments. Because if someone is suffering from a physical illness, he feels himself that he is sick. If I am suffering from fever, I feel fever. If I am suffering from constipation, I feel that constipation. But if I am suffering from takabbur, from arrogance, no mutakabbir, no arrogant person feels himself to be mutakabbir. Is there anyone who feels himself that he is mutakabbir? No. This is the ailment that is not felt by oneself unless it is told by some other person. And he, if a reliable master tells him that you are suffering from takabbur and your treatment is this, without it, that he will not feel this takabbur or malice or hasad or jealousy, etc. That is why for treatment of these inner ailments, spiritual ailments, a master or a doctor is required, a spiritual doctor, a spiritual, spiritual master or a spiritual doctor is required. And that spiritual master or doctor is called Shaykh. Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam was the spiritual master of all the Sahaba. Radiyallahu ta'ala anhu. Sahaba, many Sahaba were the spiritual masters of their pupils, Tabi'een, and they were the spiritual masters of their Tabi'een. So this is a science. It cannot be achieved through self-study. It should be achieved by a spiritual master. So this spiritual master is called Shaykh. This was the basic purpose. But in the course of treatment of these inner qualities, these ailments, sometimes some zikr is suggested. Some zikr is suggested. A particular way of zikr. This is like, any type of treatment, physical treatment, some zikr is suggested. So zikr is not the basic objective of the tasawwuf. Zikr is only means to achieve the goal of purification. Okay? But unfortunately, many people, deem that only this zikr that has been taught by my spiritual master is the ultimate goal of tasawwuf, ultimate goal of ihsan, ultimate goal of tazkiyah. While it is not so. But on the contrary, sometimes the spiritual master feels that it is not beneficial for this particular person to make further zikr. Because zikr, when a person makes lot of zikr, sometimes he suffers from ujub, from takabbur, that I am a very pious person, I make lot of zikr, etc. So if a person is suffering from a spiritual ailment, sometimes zikr is injurious to him, and that is why the spiritual master stop him from making zikr, because unless it is, Hakimul Ummat Hazrat Maulana Ashraf Ali Sahib Thanvi Rahmatullah has given an example that if, for example, a person is suffering from fever, very serious fever, no doctor would suggest for him to have vitamins, unless he is free from fever. Because if he eats vitamins while he is suffering from fever, it will increase his fever, increase his ailment. Likewise, if a person is suffering from spiritual ailments, and zikr is a vitamin, it is an energy. If you give zikr to a person who is suffering from these type of ailments, sometimes it increase his spiritual ailment. Therefore, he is stopped. It is only spiritual master that knows which person is competent to make which type of zikr. Okay? That therefore, it is to be performed according to the directions given by the spiritual master. And it happened. So, but unfortunately, since the spiritual masters have suggested some time of zikr, some time of muraqabah, some times of, and then the zikr has its own characteristics. During the course of zikr, sometimes a person sees a dream, okay, or sees a vision while he is awake. Many people thought that these visions, these dreams are the basic objective of tasawwuf, while dreams have no place at all in deciding something to be good or bad. No dream is authentic. Only the dreams of Anbiya alayhi salatu wasalam is authentic, and it is a revelation. But no dream after Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam has any authenticity. So if, for example, a person has seen something in dream, seen even Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam in dream, and he orders him to do something that is prohibited in Sharia, he is not allowed to act upon that dream. He must follow the dictates of Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam that came to us in our life, in our live life. So we cannot follow it. But some people thought that the tasawwuf is to see the dreams, to see the visions, to make karamat, and to make some wazifas, some taweez, some gandas, and all this has been attributed to tasawwuf, while it was not. Tasawwuf was in fact to purify oneself out from the bad instincts, bad quality. And another error in the concept of tasawwuf is that sometimes people say that tasawwuf is only to sit alone and to make zikr and tasbih and perform nawafil, etc. But when go to their market, when they go to their homes, they do not abide by the precept of Sharia. Their muamalat, their transactions are against Sharia. Their behavior in their homes is against Sharia, and still they feel that they are following tasawwuf. This is totally an error, and I would remind you that in our days, it was Hakimul Ummah Hazrat Maulana Ashraf Ali Thanvi Rahmatullahi Alayh who has widely explained what tasawwuf is, and the ulama of this age have recognized him as the biggest master of tasawwuf, biggest master of spiritual ailments. He has emphasized all over his life, whenever a person came to him, make bay'at, and in order to follow a spiritual master, it is also a practice that he make bay'at. You know bay'at? And then one oath of allegiance to a particular spiritual master. And the master is called Sheikh, and the person who makes bay'at is called Murid. Okay? So these Hazrat Hakimul Ummat Maulana Thanvi was a big sheikh, and he has a lot of murid. Hundreds of thousands people made bay'at on him. But when a person came to him for that purpose, he used to tell him that the basic objective of the tasawwuf is to purify oneself, to follow the full Sharia, and to purify oneself from the spiritual ailments. And for that purpose, you will have to follow each and every rule and command of Sharia. So, in the beginning, he did not, just some zikr was taught to him, but at the same time, he used to emphasize on that your transactions must be halal. Your behavior with other people, your behavior with your own wife, your children must be according to Sharia. If not, you are not no more following the Tasawwuf. So much so that once he one of his very pious murids, pupils, you perhaps know that if a person has completed his training course with a spiritual master, sometimes the spiritual master gives him permission to train other people, and that person is called Khalifa. Okay, so one of his Khalifas came to see him along with his child, and he said that I brought this child to you because I want you to make dua for him, make prayer for him, and so that he may be honored with your meeting you. Maulana Mufti Taqi Usmani, said that you did good that you brought this child to me, but I ask you a question. Did you come by a train? He said yes. So Hazrat asked him, what is his age, this child's age? He said 13 years. This child is of 13 years. Hazrat asked him, did you purchase this child's ticket, full ticket, or you purchased half ticket? So he said, I purchased half ticket. Hazrat asked him, why? When you are saying that this is of 13 years, and it is the rule of the railway that if you are bringing a child which is more than 12 years, you should have purchased the full ticket for it. Why did you do that? He answered that although he is of 13 years, but it looks like 12 years. Hazrat Thanvi Rahmatullah Alayh, said it is very sad. It means that you did not understand Tasawwuf at all. So I take back my Khilafat. He took back his Khilafat. He said, I have made you my Khalifa, you are no more my Khalifa. Because you do not understand what Tasawwuf is. Tasawwuf is to do everything according to Sharia. So if you are violating this principle, then you are no more a person that is qualified to be a Khalifa of mine. Once my eldest brother, when he was a child, when he learned for the first time how to write a letter, my father advised him to write first letter to Hazrat Maulana Thanvi Rahmatullah to seek dua for him. So he wrote a letter to Maulana Thanvi Rahimahullah Ta'ala, and just like a child who writes firstly, his writing was not good. It was not a straight line, it had no straight lines and not good. So, but still he wrote the letter, Hazrat Maulana Thanvi. When Maulana Thanvi Rahmatullah received this letter, he replied him another letter and praised him and said, I congratulate you that you have learned how to write, but now you please improve your writing. Improve your writing, and with the intention that you your writing may be comfortable to those who read your writing. You improve your writing with the intention that you are giving comfort to your readers. And then he said, look, I am trying to make you Sufi from the very beginning. Make you Sufi. Sufi means the person who acts out on Tasawwuf. It is the Sufi. So I am making you the Sufi from the day one. This was the letter of Hazrat Maulana Thanvi to my eldest brother. The people astonished. What is relation of Tasawwuf with improving one's writing? You know, people feel that Tasawwuf is something to sit alone and to make muraqabahs and make zikr, etc., etc. But the how to write, it doesn't relate to Tasawwuf. People feel like that. But Hazrat Thanvi said, no, Tasawwuf relates to everything. Because if you do this with the intention to give comfort to your readers, it will turn into an act of sawab. Okay? So your niyat, your intention should be ikhlas, lillahi subhanahu wa ta'ala. So this shows that Tasawwuf is not something aloof from our day-to-day life. It is a part of our life. It is a part of our life. My spiritual master, my Shaykh, Hazrat Maulana Abdul Hayy Sahab, rahmatullahi alayhi, he was the big Khalifa of Hazrat Maulana Thani, rahmatullahi. Once he said to me that a person came to me. He's narrating that a person came to him and said, Alhamdulillah, I have achieved the state of ihsan. Ihsan is explained by Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam that it is a state to worship Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala to worship Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala as if one is seeing Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala or Allah seeing him. This is the ihsan explained by Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam. So that person told him, Hazrat Maulana Abdul Hayy Sahab, that I have achieved the state of ihsan. It means that when I perform salah, I perform like I am seeing Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. So my Shaykh said to him, Alhamdulillah, you should be grateful to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala that you have achieved such a state of ihsan. But I ask you a question. Whether, did you achieve this state of ihsan that as if you are seeing Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala only in namaz, only in salah and tilawat and zikr? Did you have this state of ihsan even when you are at your home and treating your wife? So, if did you achieve that ihsan at that point of time also? He said, I did not know that ihsan relates to that part of our life. Ihsan relates to the acts of worship, to salah, to zakah, to zikr, to tilawat, etc. But how does it relate to when I go to my wife? My Shaykh said, no, this is the misconception. In fact, a Muslim is supposed to be in the state of ihsan at every moment of his life. Because Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam said that khayarukum lin-nisa'i. The best persons among you are those who are best for their wife. Okay? So this is the teaching of Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam. And as this is the teaching of Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam, when treating one's own wife, one must keep in mind that there is one who is seeing us. There is Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala who is seeing us. If we are oppressors against our wives, for example, or against our children, against our brothers, against our sisters, against our family, then it is seen by Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. So state of ihsan is also required in every act of ours. Whether we are at our home, whether we are in our market, etc. So the point that I am making here, and I want to emphasize, is this is a lot of misunderstanding, misconceptions about the subject. There was a person in Karachi. My father, Hazrat Maulana Mufti Taqi Usmani, was a big Khalifa of Hazrat Maulana Thanvi, rahmatullah. So many persons came to him in order to, to learn Tasawwuf. So one of those people was a big trader, businessman, having such a large beard. And, he was practicing Muslim in the sense that he was always in the masjid, in the first row of the masjid, in Jamaat, mashallah. He used to perform tahajjud at night and used to ask my father about different azkar and zikr, tasbih, etc. So when he came, many times, frequently, we thought that he is a very pious person. He performs salah in the first row of the masjid. He performs tahajjud, makes lot of zikr, etc. Once it transpired that he does this in the masjid, and when he is before before ulama, etc. But he is a big speculator in the market. He is, his business is speculation in the stock market. He used to make satta, speculation in stock market, which is totally haram. But he felt that the Tasawwuf is restricted to these acts. But satta, if he is involved in satta, if he is involved in interest, if he is involved in gambling, then there is no harm if he performs this dhikr and tasbih, etc. This is the biggest misconception about Tasawwuf. Tasawwuf requires us to follow the Sharia in letter and spirit. If we make zikr, but we will go to the market, we borrow money on interest, or we deposit money on interest, or we take interest-bearing loans, which is prohibited by Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala to the extent that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says that those who do not abandon this practice of interest, they must take the announcement of war from Allah and His Messenger against them. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala and Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam wage war against those people who are involved in interest. In another hadith, Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam has said, "Ar-riba bid'un wa sab'una shu'batan adnaha kalladhi yaqa'u ala ummi." That interest or usury has more than 70 evils, more than 70 sinful acts, and the lowest of them is equal to committing adultery with one's own mother. This is a hadith of Rasulullah. I am not telling on my own. This is the hadith of Rasulullah. So if we make zikr, for example, if we are following prayer, but we are involved in interest, this is not a tasawwuf. This is not something that is required by tasawwuf or spiritual purification. So one must follow Sharia in all aspects of his life. In all aspects of his life, he must be abiding by the rules of Sharia. Because, one of the inner qualities that is developed by tasawwuf is the courage. Why do we commit sinful acts? Because we don't have courage to fight our own desires. Our low desires, base desires, prompt us to commit sins. And we do not have courage enough courage to fight these desires. This is one of the basic cause of our being involved in sinful acts. So one thing that is acquired through tasawwuf is to develop that courage, the courage that may fight the shaitan and the one's base or in a desire. Amma man khafa maqama rabbih wa nahan nafsa 'anil hawa fa innal jannata hiyal ma'wa. The Holy Quran says, the person who fears from standing before Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala and stops oneself from following his low desires, then he will have his place in Jannah, inshallah. So the basic thing that is required for avoiding sinful acts is to have courage. This courage is developed by this training before a spiritual master. Unless one has this courage, if he did not develop this courage, then the whole practices of Tasawwuf are in vain. They have no fruit, they have no benefit. I am not saying that, ma'azallah, that zikr is something, useless. No. But zikr is very pious act, rewardable act, but it is not enough. It is a nafl ibadah. Nafl means that if you perform it, you will be rewarded for that, if you are performing it with ikhlas and sincerity. But if you do not, then Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala will not ask you, why did you not make zikr? But the obligations and prohibitions must be complied with. If, for example, a person does not make zikr at all, nafli zikr, does not perform a nafl at all, but he, refrains from all sinful acts, from the wrong use of his eyes, from the wrong use of his ear, from wrong use of his tongue, from wrong use of his own self, then, and from riba, from interest, from gambling, from every prohibited act. So inshallah he will go to Jannah, even though he did not make any zikr. But if a person, does lot of zikr, but does not refrain from sinful acts, then that zikr will not be enough to save him from the fire of hell. This is the basic concept of Tasawwuf, my dear brothers and sisters. This is the basic concept, and for that purpose, one has to turn to a proper spiritual guide who may tell him what kind of inner qualities you are developing and what kind of inner qualities you have to refrain from, and how to treat yourself spiritually. This is done by a proper shaykh, but in order to seek a proper shaykh, you must be very careful, because there are many people who have misused the name of Tasawwuf, and they misexplain the Tasawwuf, and that this is just making some muraqabahs and dreams and kashf and ilham and karamat, etc. The person to whom you turn for this training must be following the sunnah of Rasulullah sallallahu alayhi wa sallam properly, and must not be involved in innovations, bid'at, etc. If one does so, and that is exactly what is required by Rasulullah, by Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, when he said, Ya ayyuhalladhina amanu ittaqullaha wa kunu ma'as sadiqin. O you who believe, fear Allah, develop taqwa in your heart, and the way to develop taqwa in your heart is that kunu ma'as sadiqin. You must seek the company of those who are really muttaqi. So this is the company that leads one to this goal, and this is the correct spiritual master that leads one to achieve these qualities. This is the basic concept of Tasawwuf, and be very careful that all the two extremes are wrong. It is not correct to say that Tasawwuf is something bid'ah, and it is also not correct to say that Tasawwuf is something different from Sharia, and it is totally aloof from the Sharia principles. It is a part of Sharia in the sense I have just explained. May Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala make us follow the correct way according to His own pleasure, and may Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala reward us all with bless us all with acts that please Him. And may Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala give us ikhlas to do everything for the pleasure of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. سبحان ربك رب العزة عما يصفون وسلام على المرسلين والحمد لله رب العالمين وآخر دعوانا الحمد لله رب العالمين.
يا ذا الأسماء الحسنى يا خالقنا غفرانا نسألك وأنت الأسمى نأمل عفوك سبحانك يا خالقنا يا رب لعبيدك أنر الدار